I want to share a keynote presentation that I gave a couple of years ago from the main stage at the National Association of Residential Property Managers National Conference. I received very positive feedback about the presentation and have been asked on multiple occasions to give this same exact presentation to property management entrepreneur groups across the country. I thought it'd be a valuable and timely message if you've not yet heard it, as it's filled with keys to success. I hope you enjoy hearing a little bit about my journey and can apply these lessons learned to your life and your personal and professional ambitions. So here we go. Welcome to the Property Management Success Podcast, where we interview leaders in the industry to uncover the secrets to profitability, efficiency, and achieving true freedom, whether it's your time, money, or lifestyle. I'm your host, Tony Cline, and I'm here to help you build a wildly successful property management business. Let's get to it.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about something that is not necessarily property management related, but I hope that at the end of my presentation, you're able to take what I'm talking about, the tools and techniques, and implement them in your business. But before I do that, I want to raise your hand or make some noise if you were at the PM Health 5K this morning, got out. Yeah, right? These are my people. I mean, you're all my people, but those are my special people right there. All right, so let me jump into it. So we're going to talk a little bit about going from 0 to 240. And you may think that means doors. It doesn't. But it's going to mean something to you here in a little bit. So I want you to look at this here. It says, this is a quote that I live my life by. One does not find your limits until you search for them. And the harder you search, the harder they are to find. What I've learned is the harder you lean into something, the more you aggressively try to find your limits, the more they elude you. And I want you to really pay attention to that as I talk about my journey. So I'm going to talk about my journey, but I want to take you along, and I want you to put yourself in my shoes as we go on this journey, okay? So here's the obligatory credibility stuff. We already talked. I'm a member of HomeVault Property Management, powered by Pure. I am now one of the partners in Better Who, which was formerly HomeVault Academy, where we did remote team members, training, education, resources. And the reason I bring those two things up is I'm one of you guys. I'm not a fancy speaker that they hired to come up here and just sort of free flow it and sing some songs and do some raps and stuff like that. I'm one of you guys, right? And then I also have a running group called Cult Runners. It's only slightly relevant to this group, but the reason that it's relevant is we have a community where we get together and we help each other, we help elevate each other, and we help bring everybody that's in that group, and we help them bring out their potential. One thing I want to start with is I am a runner. I do my best thinking when my feet are moving. I know a lot of the other speakers, they can stand up here and just kind of, do this whole super cool casual thing where they can, pose and get their picture taken. I'm not that guy, so if you try to take any pictures, I'm going to be blurry, so don't even try. So they told me when you start doing public speaking, you're supposed to talk a little bit about your family to build some rapport. So I'm going to share my family with you. This is my dog Moose. Who in this room knows my dog Moose, right? There's a lot of you. Yeah, look it around. Moose has his own Facebook group. He's a celebrity in his own right. He runs 50Ks with me. He had an accident, and not running related, but he had to have his hip removed. And so he's overcome some of his own challenges. But and he's so cute. Okay, just a few more here. And then here's the rest of them, and that's the rest of my family. But so I got my two lovely daughters. That's Michaela and Isabella, and my wife Pam, and that's me after a long day. And then that's my son, Cody. He works for us in the business as well. So here's what I plan to share with you guys. I plan to share how to start where you are. We all learned something, or we're going to learn something in this conference over the last day or the next couple of days. And we're going to want to try to implement that. And we're going to try to figure out how to go back to the office and put it into play. And it's going to be challenging. But I want you to start where you are, how to set yourself up for success, and then how to set, commit, and crush your goals in business and in life. Okay, so here's why I'm qualified to speak on this topic. I already covered some of these, but I started in the lowest of lows. So sometimes you get speakers up here and they're super polished and they look like they've never had a bad day in their life, and they come up here and you can't relate to them. Hopefully you guys can relate to me as I tell my story. I'm in the same business you are. I already talked about that. I know the struggles you guys are going through. I know the legislative issues you guys are facing. I know the consumer demands that you guys are facing. So I get it. I get what you guys are going through. And then I'm an open book. If you ask me, I'm going to tell you. It's just the way I am. I have a hard time doing anything other than that. So let's start with my story. And again, I want to take you on a journey with my story. So back in 2006, 2007, running my property management business, living life, and I wound up getting sick. Had some pretty serious health issues. Doctors couldn't figure out what it was. And some of my organs started shutting down. I mean, it was that kind of thing. Super simple to treat. I have celiac disease, which just means I have to eat gluten-free. So I'm not one of those trendy guys that's like, is it keto or gluten-free? It's like, this is like life-saving stuff for me. So I have to eat gluten-free. But they couldn't figure it out. And the more they misdiagnosed me, the sicker I got. And so there was a day in 2011, I go to a property, and I'm in this property, and we're doing an inspection. I got tenants moving in tomorrow. I really shouldn't be at the property, but our staff was busy, and I wanted to make sure that it was ready. So I'm at this property, and the pain just gets so bad that I just can't handle it. And I'm like, all I got to do is get through this and get back home. I don't know how I'm going to get home, but I just need to get out of here. And I couldn't. So I wound up crawling into the closet in one of the bedrooms in this rental unit, shutting the light off, shutting the closet door, shutting the bedroom door, turning off that light, and the light was still too bright. The pain was still too challenging for me to even be able to focus. And at that moment, I'm like, I don't know how, but I need this pain to stop. And frankly, I don't care how it stops. I just need it to stop. Like every breath was a struggle. So the reason I point that out is I'm going to talk to you about some growth that I went through, but I don't want you to think that I'm just, oh, that's lucky Tony. He just was born with some breaks. So that's my start of the story. I talked a little bit about the health issues. But what I decided to do was I decided I was going to take some action. I got out of there and I said, I just can't live like this. And so I went to the doctors. They ran a whole bunch of new tests, and they're like, yeah, everything came back normal. We don't know what's wrong with you. Maybe you just need more exercise. And I was like, you sons of, like, nope. I'm not the exercise guy. Like, I don't exercise. But they're like, that's all we know. So I woke up the next day, and there's a park by my house, and there's a 0.6 of a mile loop around this park. And so I got up that day, and I did a 0.6 of a mile walk around that park by my house. And guess what? Nothing changed. I took action, but nothing changed. And so I did it again the next day. I did it again the next day. And I started developing those habits. And, habits determine your life. It's not about how much you can accomplish today or tomorrow. It's about how much you can accomplish over time by implementing the right habits. And so I took action, started walking the 0.6 of a mile block or lap around this park by my house. And the reason I know that is I had an app. I started tracking it, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But I created incremental progress over time to where one day I had walked 8 miles before work. I became a morning person. Like, first of all, I don't exercise and I don't get up early, and all of a sudden I'm exercising, walking 8 miles before work, and I'm getting up in the morning, listening to the birds sing. I'm seeing the sunrise, and I'm like, this is actually pretty cool. But 8 miles before work is taking a long time. So I called the doctors and I said, hey, what do you think? Do you think I could start running? And they're like, well, how do you feel? I said, well, I feel pretty good. And they're like, well, why would you change anything? I said, well, okay. Hung up the phone, never talked to those doctors again. And the next day I ran 5 minutes, then walked 5, ran 4, walked 4, ran 3, walked 3, you get it, all the way down to 1. And that was the most I could do. I mean, that was it. I was spent. That was a good day for me. But it was a start. I put action and principles into play where I started developing these habits. So I'm going to sprinkle in some keys to success and highlight those for you guys so that you can kind of try to pull out these nuggets and figure out how to apply to business. So the key to success to start with is just get started. We're all on our own journey, and it's really easy to compare your progress or where you're at, your status, to somebody else. And that's just stupid. Nobody else is on your journey with you. It's your journey. There are going to be people who are further ahead on their journey. There are going to be people who are further behind on their journey, but it doesn't matter because it's your journey. The next thing is, as you start to make progress, and this is super important, track your progress. And as we we'll see in some of the vendor exhibition or the vendor trade show, you're going to see there's a lot of people in there that can help you with KPIs and different types of metrics. So in your business, as you start making progress, track that progress because it's super important to look back. There's a book called The Gap and the Gain, and who knows the author of that? You guys remember? Is it Dan Sullivan, I think? Yeah, Dan Sullivan. So he writes this book. It's called The Gap and the Gain. And some people look at the gap, like how far they have left to go, and some people look at the gain, how far they've come. And it's really important to see how far you've come. And then the last thing on this is to consciously search for ways to improve your performance. They're out there. Constantly be looking at little ways to tweak. You don't have to make huge progress overnight. You just got to make little incremental progress. Incremental progress over time equals incredible results. All right, so okay, back to the story. So I had started running a little bit more and a little bit more, and I was the guy that my wife would get calls around the holidays, and they'd say, is Tony coming to dinner for the holidays? And she'd be like, I don't know, I'm not sure if he's feeling up to it. And I was known as the sick guy in our family and the sick guy in our circle. I didn't want to be known as the sick guy anymore. I wanted to be known as the guy who could run a marathon. I didn't know anybody that could run a marathon. Those people are idiots, right? Like you intentionally go out before the sun's up and try to run 26 miles. But I had been sick for so long that I wanted to change my identity. I wanted to be known as the guy who could run a marathon. So here I am. Wanted to make sure they got good pictures of me, so I wore super obnoxious clothing. So you can see I'm the guy in the yellow there, or the green, or whatever that is. So that's me starting, and then that's me finishing. And you'll see I'm holding up a sign. I carried a sign. It was printed on cloth, but I carried it that in my pocket for 26 miles. And at the end, as I crossed the finish line, it says, "I love you, Pam. We did it." Because it was a team effort that got me across that finish line. She allowed me to train. She allowed me to put in the focus. And it was a team effort to get me across the finish line. So if you look, here's a kind of a zoomed in picture of it. This is a picture with two stories, though. As you see, I have my sign. It's kind of a sweet little love story for me and my wife, saying it was a team. But if you look a little closer, I've got bloody nipples. So I finished, right? So that's the second part of the story is I finished, but there is no sacrifice, or there is no victory without sacrifice. There was things I didn't know that I learned, and you're going to go through some struggles. It's going to get a little bloody. It's going to get a little messy, but and then that's the picture. My wife's like, "Change your shirt, and I'll take your picture." So that's the picture of me finishing the Colfax Marathon. So I finished that in like 4 hours and 28 minutes. Not a great time, not a bad time. It's just kind of the time that it took. But I was a one and done. I'm like, okay, change my identity. No longer the sick guy. I'm the marathon guy. And then I came to a NARPM conference. And, raise your hand if you know Brian Birdie or Scott Abernathy. You guys know those guys? Yeah, troublemakers, right? So I walk into the room, and they were kind of out here greeting people as they came in. And one of them turned to the other. I can't remember which was which, but they're like, "Yeah, I don't know. I'll do it if Tony does it." I'm like, "Yeah, sure. What is it?" And so that's where I got there we go, tricked into running the Little Rock Marathon. Now, they picked the Little Rock Marathon is because apparently, I think it was according to Scott, it had the biggest marathon medal on the circuit. So I'll show you a picture of the medal, but that was the only criteria, was we wanted to get the biggest medal. So I went from being a one and done to a guy that runs a marathon. But these are all signs that were made for me. They kind of had a little surprise party, a send off as I was going to travel out to Little Rock. But these are all signs that were made for by my staff for me in the office. But what I really want to point out, a couple of things. This one is, it says, "Good luck, Tony. You are an inspiration." And I got to believe that. I got to believe that my staff took the time to print that out and stick that on there. There are people watching you as you are trying to achieve your goals, and you're motivating people to feel inspired to achieve their goals. And then the second thing here is, it says you can't win a marathon without putting a few Band-Aids on your nipples. That story stuck with me too. But it was great to see, my staff getting involved, our team. And so anyway, so here's the Little Rock Marathon. The nice thing about this is I was able to go back and just through repetition and practice and learning and getting involved with the community, I was able to improve my time, cut quite a bit of time off. And then, as promised, here's the medal, right? Not too bad, not too bad. I haven't eaten off of it yet, but I've heard you could. So, all right. Oh, thanks. Okay, so here's the keys to success. Define what you want to accomplish, but be honest about where you are now, and then start chipping away at the difference. A lot of us, we have these big goals that we want to accomplish, and we're not sure how we're going to get there, but it doesn't really matter. It's kind of like driving a car at night. You don't need to see from here to the destination. You just need to see a little bit further out in front of where you are now. And then acknowledge your accomplishments while striving to achieve the next goal. I think that's super critical. A lot of us don't stop to take the time, whether it's in business or life, we don't stop to take the time to say, you know what? I'm actually all right. I actually did a pretty good job there. I'm not done, but I did a pretty good job there. And then the next thing is believe in your ability to recreate success at a higher level. And Seneca, I tried to find a picture of him on the internet, but apparently they didn't have pictures of him back then. But it says, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Be as prepared as you can, because as Scott, who was in here for Scott's presentation just a few minutes ago, there is opportunity galore coming our way, right? So let's get prepared, and let's be as prepared as possible, because that opportunity is going to be there. All right, so I said, you know what? I did a couple of marathons. I think I could do a 50-miler. I think I'm good enough to go out and knock out a 50-miler. Had no idea, again, had no clue that people could run 50 miles, or that they would want to. Like, these just didn't make sense to me. But what I figured out is if you want to run 50 miles, you start hanging around people who run 100 miles, because it normalizes that. Like 50 miles is half the distance of 100 miles, but it's not even half the effort, really, because at 100 miles, the effort starts at 50, right? So just like in this room, y'all are here, and I know there's a whole bunch of first-timers, which is super exciting. You first-timers, when today is over and we're done with the trade show, do not go back to your hotel room. Like, I forbid it. Like, hang out in the hallways, find people that have badges on, introduce yourselves to them, because this is the community that can expand your mind. And I know we're talking about running here, but it's the same thing in business. You start hanging around people who do and have done what you want to do, and it normalizes it. It makes it possible. All right, so here I am lining up at the San Juan Solstice 50. I picked this off the internet because it was Trail Runner magazine said it was the hardest 50-miler in the country. Turns out a lot of races say that, but I believe them. This is a hard race. So I'm lining up, don't really know what I'm doing. There's like 11 river crossings. It starts at 10,000 feet above sea level, goes up to 13,000 feet above sea level, which is about 10,000 feet above where we are right now. I line up, and here I am crossing the finish line. So super exciting, right? It's almost like the Boston Marathon. Like, look at all those people. Yeah, there's not a lot of people. There's not a lot of people here because when you start performing at a level like this, there's not a lot of people that are there. A lot of those people that were there, those were family members, friends, people that drove up to the event so that you didn't have to drive. So as you get better and better with what you're doing, you're going to realize that there's fewer and fewer people at that level. But the people who are at that level are more and more committed and more dedicated and performing at a higher level. So I'm like, I finished the San Juan Solstice. That was a 16-hour cutoff. I finished in 15 hours and 38 minutes. So I barely made it, right? But a finish is a finish. You know, you guys are the only ones that know that I didn't like crush it. But I'm like, I did that, and actually I didn't die. Like, what could I do if I trained a little bit more? So I went back and I ran the Run Rabbit Run 50 miler. This is in Steamboat. You guys know that. Have you seen that race yet up there in Steamboat? Yeah. So it's a beautiful course. You actually start and you run up a ski slope to start. And but beautiful course. So in this race, I did this the following year, and I went back and I finished it in 11 hours and 38 minutes, cut almost exactly 4 hours off my time. And the reason I say that is because it's all about continuous improvement. It's all about putting in the effort and knowing what your next goal is going to be. And the more you do it, the better you get. So here I am finishing this. I didn't know we had sound. You have to hug the bunny at the end. So all right, so I run a couple of 50 milers. That was pretty fun. That was exciting. So you run a couple of 50 milers, and then that expands what's possible. So here's some keys to success for you. Find a community that shares similar interests and similar goals and has done what you want to do. I've already talked about that. You guys are so lucky to be in this room right now. There are people in your community that are in your industry that it's just a normal day for them. You guys are here with the best community in property management. You have the opportunity to network. You've got the opportunity to go to some of these classes. You've got vendors over here that are going to help you improve your business. Like, you could not be in a better place. So while you're here, take advantage of every minute of it. And again, for you first timers, if you go back to your hotel rooms, we're going to send in squads to knock on your doors and pull you out. All right. So it says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I really believe that. There's some great people in this room, and they are willing to help you get your business to the next level, wherever you want to go. Next key to success. All right, who knows who this is? Who is it? Ted Lasso, yeah. So I don't know if you guys have seen this, and if we have the volume, we don't necessarily need it. We can turn that down. But basically, he says, if you're hurt, you're hurt. If you can't practice, you can't practice. Right? And this is a great rip on a scene, but this is actually Allen Iverson does this exact rant, and he goes on and talks about practice. But he says, we're going to talk about practice. We're going to talk about practice. Not the game that I go out and die for every day, but we're going to talk about practice. And basically, what he's talking about in here is practice. But the reason he's talking about it is people show up to work. People show up and they practice. They put in the time. But are they really practicing? It's not practice that makes perfect or perfection. It's not practice that makes you perfect. It's perfect practice that makes you perfect. And I think a lot of times we get into this routine where we show up and we put in the time. We go to work because it's time to go to work. We leave because it's time to go home. And you all know what it's like the day before you go on vacation, most productive day you have all year, right? And it's because you've got this mission. I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this. and you knock them all off, and then you're like, it's 3:30. I'm done. I'm going home early. So it's not about showing up. It's about showing up with intention and doing the right things and practicing with intention. All right, so of course you guys have to have guessed this by now. I did the 50 milers a couple of times. I'm hanging around with people that are doing 100 milers. Like, these people are super weird, super great people, very caring, very giving, a lot like the people in this room. So I think, okay, well, I'm gonna train for the 100 miler. So in 2019, September, I line up at the Bear 100. Look at these. Look at my face on there. You can't tell it, but I'm actually happy, right? So I'm happy there, but it's early in the race. It's early in the race, 2019, and I run all. I get up at 6 a.m. The race starts at 6 in the morning. I get up and we take off, and there's about 6,000 feet of elevation gain in about the first 5 miles, and really working hard. Get up, run all through the day, and about 4:30 starts getting cold, starts to sun starts to go behind a mountain, and it starts to rain. And so I stop, I take off my vest, I've got a little rain jacket in there, I put my rain jacket on, and then it stops raining. So I take it off, put it back in my pack. I do that 3 or 4 times. And then I'm like, this is dumb. It's going to stop raining. And so I just didn't put it on. And it rained for like 40 minutes. And at this point, the sun has gone down, and I made some mistakes. And I learned a lot. But here's what happened. Around mile 72, it's dark. Sun has not yet come up. It's about 3:30. They call it the witching hour. It's like the worst time to be out running. I know you guys believe me, right? Who runs at 3:30 in the morning, especially in the woods? But I'm out there, I'm running, and I'm running with a guy who slips and falls. And he stops at the aid station to go into the medical trailer. Now, keep in mind, he's in this nice warm trailer, getting checked out. I'm waiting for him, which is a mistake. I should have been running my own race, right? I should have been focused on what I need to do to get to the finish line. But I didn't know. And so I wait for him, and while I'm waiting for him, the wind starts blowing sideways. It's still cold, it's raining, and I make the conscious mental decision at mile 72 to DNF. Right? They call it DNF, did not finish. I dropped from the race. And a lot of people wouldn't include this in a presentation like this. A lot of people would skip over that failure. But the reason I include this is that success is built on the foundation of failure. If you can't accept failure and learn from it and improve from it, you'll never be the success that you were meant to be. Success is a part of it. Anybody that tells you that they succeeded without failing, they're either lying or they're lucky, and they were probably lying. Right? Because you have to, where you learn your best lessons is through failure. So that was 2019. 2020, I go back. But during that whole year, we got a little, all right. Okay, so this is a part of the ultra runner's mentality. You have to keep going, no matter what happens, right? So it doesn't matter that the screen's not there. I know what's going on. So in 2020, I went back to the Bear 100 because I needed redemption. I needed that for myself. And while I was out there, from the time I DNF'd, I had to sign a form that said, you know what, I quit. I drop out, I withdraw myself. So from the time I signed that to the time I went back in 2020, every training run I went on, I was thinking about, this is for my redemption. Every hike I went on, if it was bad weather, if it was raining, I'd be like, this is good training. This is good training. I only have to be out here for an hour or two while it's raining. So I'm going to use that time to learn how to run in the rain, because in a real life race, it's probably going to rain if I keep at this. If I've got a bad stomach, if I've got a head cold, it doesn't matter. It's good training. And the reason I bring that up in here is, as property managers, property management company employees or team members, we go through a lot of junk. But if we keep in mind that it comes at us in small snippets, it's good training, right? An owner's mad, we do our best, and then we let it go. It's good training. Tenant calls, they're being unreasonable, do our best, let it go. It's good training. So I go back in 2020. The cutoff to finish the race is 36 hours.
Let's go.
So I'm going across the finish line. This is me. I'm like, I think I'm like, I'm doing this little, but after 32 hours and 45 minutes, this is a lot of effort, right? But for a year, I focused on this finish line, crossing this finish line. Again, look at the crowd. The crowd goes wild. So, right. So he asked me right here. He says, any last words?
Good job, Papa. Good job. Yeah. Any last words? Any last words? I'm hungry.
So I went back, got my my biggest physical accomplishment of my life. I went back and finished the Bear 100 in 2020. I finished it in like 32 hours and 45 minutes, and the cutoff was 36 hours. So I did pretty good. I had a little bit of room there, and then I'm like, I think there's room for improvement. I think if I keep at it, I'll get a little better. And so I went back in 2021, and for this race, they give you, and it goes back to, for ultra runners, it goes back to horse racing. It all kind of started, people doing these 100-mile races started with guys running horse races and their horse pulling up lame, and so they finished the finish. And in the horse races, they give you a belt buckle. They don't give you a dinner-sized medal. They give you a belt buckle. And in 2020, I got what was called at the Bear 100, it was called the Black Bear buckle. Oh, that's pretty cool, right? But if you finish in under 30 hours, you get a grizzly buckle. And right, grizzlies are way better than black bears. If you're a black bear fan, I apologize. But grizzlies is where it's at. So I'm like, I'm going back in 2021, and I'm going to improve and try to get that grizzly buckle. So again, I just can't get over the excitement of the crowd here. I mean, it's just fantastic. But I go back in 2021 and I finished the Bear 100. I didn't get my under 30-hour finish, and here's why. Just after mile 51, there was a runner that was out on the trail, and this is like life or death type of activity. Like you're out in the middle of the woods, miles from anybody. And I came across this runner, and he was struggling pretty good. And so I stayed with him from mile 51 to mile 68 just to keep him moving. Gave him some of my fuel, which is, liquid calories. It's a sexy word to say, potato chips, if you're at the aid stations. But sometimes in life, when we're on the way to our own goals and we're on the way to our own destination, sometimes it makes sense to stop and help somebody else out, even at your own expense, because you never know when something like that is going to come back and be a benefit to you. And even if it doesn't, it's the right thing to do. So I finished in 30 hours, 47 minutes, but it was still a great race for me. So here's the keys to success. Seek continuous improvement. I keep saying that, but it's because it's true. Every day you go to work, there's a way to tweak something, to make some small improvement. You don't have to change over time or overnight. You change over time, right? And then this is something that I put the motto up on the first slide. This is probably a very close second for me. Be content, but don't be satisfied. A lot of times we try to compare ourselves to other people. We try to compare ourselves to where we think we should be. As long as we are on a path of continuous improvement and we have goals out in front of us, be content where you are. Be happy. And then just don't be satisfied and stop. Continue to improve. And then don't stop when you face adversity. So in 2019, when I ran the Bear 100 and I didn't finish, I DNF'd, I could have said, you know what? I'm pretty good at running 50 milers. It's twice what a marathon is almost. I'm pretty good at 50s. Let me just kind of dial it back. Let me dial back my expectations. Let me say, 50s, who runs 50 miles? That's crazy. So I could still have my identity tied up in running and be okay with 50 miles, but that's not what's inside me. And I don't think it's what's inside a lot of you guys. You have things that you want to try to accomplish. When you face adversity, you can't stop. You can't stop. We already talked about the fact that success is built on the foundation of failure. So you got to keep going. And then we talked a little bit about this already, reframing failure as a component of success. It's a component of success. It has to be included. And then perform an autopsy when things go wrong. So when things go wrong in your business, this is something that I'm super strict about. I don't find blame when something goes wrong in our company. We want to solve the issue. I don't care who's at fault. I'm at fault. I'm the business owner. I'm at fault for whatever happens under my watch. So now that we've established that, let's solve the issue. It's a safe place for people to say, this is what happened, and this is how we're going to fix it. So I like to call it an autopsy. Let's open it up and see what's going on inside, as opposed to doing the finger pointing. Okay, so here's where the 240 comes in from the title of the presentation. So I'm thinking, okay, I've run a couple of 100-milers. I didn't run one. Let me step up and see. I heard about this race called the Moab 240. It's 240 miles, a single loop through the desert of Moab, Utah. You run up over the LaSalle mountain range, again, up around 10,000 feet. And I think that may be something that I could do. So here I am at the start line. I'm dressed in all white because I think it's going to be super hot out in the desert, so I need to dress in white to stay cool. Starts in the dark. I'm starting amongst some high-level athlete. This is high-level athlete stuff. There are like really professional, like athletes, serious athletes. I don't belong here. I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done this before. But you have to be willing to be a small fish in a big pond. You have to be willing to be comfortable being uncomfortable. So here's I just said that. I'm going to say it again. Be willing to be a little fish in a big pond, right? As we grow in our accomplishments, so does the challenges that we face. And I like to say that our obstacles, or our goals define our obstacles, right? So the guys, the people that ran the 5K this morning, if you had a little rock in your shoe and you're like, I need to get that rock out because I still have Mike's, oh, there we go. I need to get that rock out because I've got 3 miles to go. Well, I'm focused on that little rock. But if I say I'm going to go and run 20 miles, that little rock, I may say I need to get it out now, or I may need to just run with it. Like the goal that you're trying to accomplish, it makes the little obstacles just kind of disappear. You have to focus on the big things, and then you have other people that help you work on the small things. So get comfortable being uncomfortable. I said that too, but I really believe that. I actually don't know who this Neil Donald Walsh is, so if you look him up and he's a horrible person, forget I quoted his name, but I wanted to say something like this, and that was the closest quote that I could find on the internet. So life begins at the end of your comfort zone. Comfort is a trap because life, the current of life is always moving. There is no neutral, right? So if you stop trying to achieve your goals, and your goals can be something as simple as spending more time with your family. It's measurable, whatever that goal is. But if you stop moving towards it, the current of life is going to pull you away from it. So get comfortable being uncomfortable, stay focused on your goals, and you have to get out of your comfort zone. And then frame challenges as good training. I already talked about that too. If you're working on something and you get challenged by an owner or you get challenged by a tenant, it's not going to last forever. It's not. So it's good training. All right, so at Moab, we're off, we're at mile 9. And at mile 9, everybody's happy. It's like 7 dwarves, everybody that made the commitment to show up, they're all happy. They're kind of dancing and, it's like they're singing and whistling like 7 dwarves all going to work. But it's really easy to make the commitment. People will January rolls around, a bunch of people will sign up for the gym. It's really easy to make that payment to the gym, especially if you're on one of those $10 a month memberships where it comes out of your account and you don't have to go, but it feels good because you got a membership, right? So that's kind of like what it was like at mile 9. Everybody was happy, everybody was committed. But be mentally prepared to face and overcome challenges, because what I'm going to talk about next is, here is the plan that we put together. And you can't really see this, and it's basically irrelevant, but this, I've got across the top, it's how many hours I think it'll take to finish, 96, 97, 98. Down the side is a list of aid stations. So you see the first line there in yellow is at the Amasa aid station, and it's the first time I get to see my crew. So mile 17, there's an aid station at mile 9, I already talked about that, but then there's an aid station called Amasa. First time I'm supposed to be able to see my crew. And you saw me, I said I was dressed in all white. I thought it was going to be super hot. You go to the desert, it's supposed to be hot, right? But the whole first day it rains. So you're out there in the desert, you're out there in the mud, and I come into mile 17, I'm soaking wet. I'm really excited to see my crew. They've got some extra clothes for me. And I get there and they're not there. So I don't have the extra clothes. I don't have that little mental pick-me-up. But it doesn't matter. I've got this goal. I'm crossing that finish line at some point. So I'm not sure if the clicker's dying or what. But anyways, commit to relentless forward progress. You're going to come across things as you're pursuing your goals, as you're doing your work on a daily basis at the office. Commit to relentless forward progress. A little progress is progress. Right? There are days where you can only make a little progress. That's okay. But you have to commit. You can't get sidetracked by things that go wrong, that people that let you down. It doesn't matter. All right? My crew had an issue. They figured it out. But I couldn't let that sidetrack me. And then adjust your strategy and tactics to the current situation. They weren't there. So I wasn't going to get the dry socks. I was going to have to run in what I had. I had some people at the aid station help me fill my water bottles, got a little of that extra sexy ultra runner fuel, potato chips, and headed out. And then document your why. One of the things that we talk about a lot in business, every one of you is in this business for a reason. Every one of you have something that you're trying to achieve, some legacy that you're trying to leave, whatever it is. And when things get tough, you have to have that in the back of your mind that you can lean on, because this is a crappy business. You guys, I don't know why you're in this room. Like it's a hard business, but it's rewarding, and it can be incredibly satisfying, but you have to remember your why when things get tough. It may be for you, it may be providing opportunity for your members on your team, providing opportunity for your children, helping your landlords build institution or generational wealth, but now we're going to move it along a little bit. So now I'm at mile 72. This is the next time I can see my crew. So I get to mile 72. You talk about community. There's the gal in the purple shirt there, and it's kind of hard to see, but the top 2 pictures are, I get into the aid station. My feet are a mess because it's wet. And I get into the aid station, and this gal here has volunteered to be a medic. She's in the medical profession. She volunteers for 4 days to sit there and help runners continue on. And she's volunteers. And it's a lot like the people that put this conference on. I don't know if you guys know this, but NARPM's a volunteer organization. And the people that put this conference on, they didn't get paid to put this conference on for you guys. All right? Yeah, so there are people that are in this room that are sacrificing, for months they've been sacrificing to put this on for you guys. It's a lot like Jenny here popping. So she's popping my blister, and you can see, I don't know if you can see in that far picture, but she's taken a picture of my foot, because at this point it's the the biggest, worst blister that she's seen of the race so far. And she's taking a picture of it because she thinks it's funny. And then my crew is taking a picture of her taking a picture because they think it's funny. So I put it on the slide because apparently it's funny. And then this is the first time I'm able to now pick up a pacer. So this is somebody that heads out on the course with me. So now I have somebody that can be with me for the rest of the race. And that's a lot like you're going to find vendors in this next room over here. And some of you guys are, and I get it. I did this in the beginning too. You're going to walk right down the middle, not too close to this side of the vendors and not too close to this side of the vendors because you don't want to talk to anybody. So you're going to try to walk like right down the middle. That's the worst place you can be. Engage with these vendors. They're here to help you out. They've spent money to come here to help you improve your business. Yeah, and you may have to give them a business card. That's how they follow up. But engage with them. They have solutions that you need in your business, and you need to engage with them. All right, so here's the key to success. I'm gonna bounce back a little bit. So around mile 60, I'm out there. It's starting to get dark. I carry a GoPro with me so I can kind of document, do a little documenting to myself, a little voice recording. But around mile 60, I start to feel something going on in my ankle, and I'm like, I think it's okay. I had just run that Bear 100 that I ran in 2021. I had just run that 11 days before showing up to Moab. So my legs were swollen. I had on these compression calf sleeves, and that was supposed to help with the swelling. And then because it was raining, I had on what they're called gaiters. They're basically like little umbrellas for your feet, and they're supposed to keep the water out. And then these shoes that I had like a plastic tongue on it. And so all three of these things were grinding on my ankle. And around mile 60, I'm like, that's starting to hurt. I think I can make it to the aid station. I think I can make it to 72, let them figure it out. I knew I should have stopped, but I was tired. The race was wearing on me. And I should have stopped. I should have stopped because you're going to see it caused a lot of problems. But you're going to have things in your business that come up. You're going to have things that you know you need to fix, solutions you know you need to implement, things you need to fix, owners you know you need to fire, but you're like, I'll do it after tax season. There's a lot of stuff coming up. I got to get through tax season. And I got to get through leasing season. And then it's the holidays, and maybe I don't want to deal with that employee issue because it's the holidays. Like, you know there are things that in your business right now that you need to fix. Fix them now because they don't go away. And then I already talked about this. I'm going to say this a lot. Commit to your goals early and often. You should have them top of mind, especially you business owners. Like everybody in this room should have a list of goals that they're working towards in their company, your KPIs that you're working for. There's vendors over here that can help you set up your KPIs, but commit to your goals early and often. And this, I truly believe, people don't quit big. They quit one small compromise at a time. I talked about those people that sign up for the gym. They signed up for the gym on January 1st or whatever that is. And they go for 10, 12 days, whatever, every other day. They're super excited about going. And then one day something comes up and they're like, I think I went yesterday. Yesterday was good. I went yesterday. I don't need to go today. I think it'll be okay. I think it's on my calendar. It's in my plan, but I think I'm going to skip today. You just quit. You have to be diligent about protecting your plan to achieve your goals. People don't quit big. They don't show up. They don't wake up and go, you know what? Today's the day, everybody. Today's the day I quit the gym. I'm doing it. I'm quitting today. Nope. They make these small compromises, and it whittles away at what they're able to accomplish. So you have to protect your goals, and you have to commit to them early on in the process and often, repeatedly. Okay. I talked about some of the issues that I was having. So I get to mile 121. And again, keep in mind it's 240 miles. So I get to mile 21, top of Shea Mountain. Hardest part of any race I've ever done, climbing up this Shea Mountain in the dark. I get here, it's about 2:30 in the morning. Ankles jacked up. The skin is split open now. It's swollen so much that the skin is split open. It's oozing. And I get here, and these are medics here. I'm in the red, sitting down. those are the medics. And I'm like, and I'm being honest with you here. I'm halfway, and I know I still have just as far to go. Halfway is really hard, guys. Halfway is like you still have as far to go as what you've come. And so you have to be super protective of what you're trying to accomplish. And in this moment, I'm just being honest with you guys. I'm sharing this with you. I was hoping they were going to pull me. I was hoping this medic was going to say, yeah, your leg is bad. Medically, I need to pull you. Because then I could have quit with dignity. I could have said, yeah, it's not my fault. I pulled in. I was actually doing pretty good. I came into Shea Mountain, hardest part of the course, and they pulled me. Well, it wasn't my fault. They pulled me. But he looks at my leg. I've got this pitting edema where you can basically put your fingerprint into the leg and skin doesn't bounce back because it's swollen so much. And he looks at me and he goes, yeah, your leg is jacked up. But I've seen worse. He's like, you got a crew car here? I'm like, yeah, my crew met me here. He's like, go lay down in the back of your crew. You're 12 hours ahead of cutoff. He said, go lay down in that crew car for 2 hours, put your legs up, and let them drain, and then get back out on the course. And I love that guy for that, because he was honest with me. Yeah, I was in a bad spot. He could have very easily enabled me and said, yeah, it's time to quit, time to pull the plug. But he didn't. It was a little tough love. He knew what he was talking about. So I laid in the back of this crew car for 2 hours. And during that 2 hours, I did two things. I whined like a little baby. And I visualized myself crossing that finish line. I had people take off work. I had people take off an entire week to come out and support me that were part of my crew. You have people in your business that are counting on you succeeding at your goals. You can't let them down. I couldn't let my people down. I was a wreck. I mean, you could see the despair on my face. You could see, I mean, it's just, I don't know how I'm going to keep going. But I had people that were there that were counting on me to keep going. So for 2 hours, I laid there, I whined, my legs would spasm, needles would be shot through my legs as they would drain. But for 2 hours, I'm like, how am I going to cross? What time of day is it going to be? What am I going to do at the finish line? Like just all these different scenarios. I had to get my mind out of the pain and focus on the goal, focus on the finish line. So I already said this, I'm saying it again. Commit to your goals early and often because it's that important. There are going to be times when you want to quit. There's going to be times when you should quit and you can't quit. All the things are going to line up and you're going to be, check all 10 of these boxes, gives me permission to quit. But if your goals are that important to you, you just can't quit. And I know Tony Robbins is a little played out, but he says if you want to take the island, you need to burn the boats. And essentially what that means is you just have to eliminate all options of retreat. You have to move forward. And then you need to visualize success. There's been a lot of studies, psychological studies that talk about people that line up for a free throw line or three-point line. They practice visualizing over and over hitting that three-point shot. And they have the same success rate as the people who show up and practice on a daily basis making that shot. So not that one is more important than the other, but they're both super important. You have to put in the work, but you have to visualize seeing yourself be successful with that. And then take action even when you don't want to. So a couple of slides ago, I had the two pictures of me sitting in the chair, and then there was a picture of me at the bottom, steam kind of rolling off my jacket. It was 17 degrees. You think you go to the desert, but I didn't realize you go to the desert and then you go up to the mountains. And it was 17 degrees, and getting out of that truck and getting back on the trail is the hardest thing I've done in recent memory, at least. Making that commitment to get out of the truck and carry on. And so you have to take action even when you don't want to. All right, so I'm back out on the trail. I'm feeling pretty good. My legs drained a little bit. I get to, so this is called Pole Canyon Aid Station. I roll in there. I get to get some sleep. I finally get to get a little bit of sleep. I get to eat. My pacer's with me. He takes my pack, fills my pack. I lay down on this cot. Another volunteer. I'm totally wiped out. My pacer says what I need. I lay down on the cot. They take my shoes and socks off. They drain my blisters. I mean, I won't get into the details, but there's a lot of gross stuff that these volunteers put up with, not unlike here. And they drain my blisters, they put on fresh socks, they get me all the food I need, and I get out, and I'm feeling really good. And there's going to be times in your business where you feel really good, and you take your eye off the ball. And right here, you see me, I'm kind of rubbing my face. So at mile 184, I'm feeling really good, and I start running pretty fast. And around mile 187, I take the worst spill. I've been running since 2011 now, and I take the worst spill that I've ever taken, like in the history of me running. It's one of those, have you guys ever, you're walking and you trip and you kind of do this little Superman dive? Well, I did that like 3 times in a row. So now I'm basically horizontal and I'm just picking up speed and I just can't recover. And I go down, smack my face. I land on my arms. I'm trapped like this. I busted my GoPro. I busted one of my bottles, scratched up my glasses, scratched my watch. My arms are trapped underneath me, like I said. And when I busted that bottle, it started squirting up like this. And I'm tired. I've been running for like over 3.5 days now. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm bleeding out. It's just squirting up like this. And, Randy comes over and he kind of helps me get up. And I just had the worst fall I've ever had. And I'm thinking, it actually gave me a burst of energy. I'm like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And I'm okay. I'm all right. I'm going to make it. I'm going to do what I set out to do because it can't get much worse. I mean, maybe if the leg fell off, which is not out of the picture yet. But I'm like, I've hit bottom. So sometimes when things are really bad, if you can just keep your head above getting sucked down into the suckiness of how bad it sucks and say, you know what, I'm making it. I might be making it one breath at a time, but I'm making it. And I'm going to overcome this. And once I overcome it, I'm stronger for it. So mile 187, I get up and I continue forward. So here's the keys to success. Set intermediate goals as you're going. So all these little aid stations, sometimes people celebrate when they get into an aid station because they've finally made it. They've been running out. In Moab, some of the aid stations are 20, 25 miles apart. And I finally got past an aid station, but when I get to the aid station, I don't celebrate. I celebrate when I leave. Because the only time you can drop at a race like this is at an aid station. Because if you're out 10 miles between aid stations and you go, I think I quit, nobody cares. Like there's nobody there to quit to. So you can only quit at an aid station, right? So set your intermediate goals and then be excited, not when you hit it, but when you exceed it and when you move past it. Okay, and then bounce back from setbacks. We're all going to have setbacks. We all have setbacks. And you need to just be comfortable and prepared to bounce back from that. Okay, and then look for the positives. They're out there. They're out there every single day. Now that I said look for the positives, we get to mile 224. It's the last time I can see my crew. Randy runs me in. Randy always runs me in. He's my pacer that takes me to the finish line. I get to mile 224. It's starting to rain again. The wind's blowing sideways. It's dark. I have a pacer with me. A lot of you guys know Albert Lopez. He's with, he's Kristen's husband. She's with Rent Scale. But he was out there pacing me, and he did like 12 miles, but he just wasn't prepared to be able to take me in through the end of the race. And so I had to drop him there. I had to make the decision that it was the right thing to do to go on alone. And it's windy, it's raining, it's pretty horrible conditions, but I had work to do. So again, crew wasn't there. Something goes wrong, keep going anyway. I'm close. I got to finish. And then work hard to achieve your goals even when nobody's watching. So I was by myself that last stretch. Could have been really easy to back off the gas, start making complaints, start making excuses, and you just can't do that. When you're that close, you got to keep going. And then sometimes it's easier with somebody else. So I'm almost done. I got probably 10 miles to go, and I'm running. And keep in mind, I've been running for 4 days at this point. And there's somebody behind me, and as he's coming up behind me, I kind of noticed. So he's like 50 yards, 75 yards behind me, and I'd run, he'd run. I'd walk, he'd walk. And again, not that this is right, but where I was with my headspace, it was starting to annoy me. Like, why? If he wants to pass, let him pass. If he doesn't want to pass, like, quit shadowing me. So I just kind of stop and wait for him. And he comes up and he's like, hey man, thanks. Like, thank you. Like, I just need some visual cue. Like, I'm so tired. I'm so far gone that I need something to cue my mind on so that I stay on course. And so we made a pact right there that there was like 7 miles to go. And it turns out I'm a better trail runner than him. So then there was like 3.5 miles of trail and then 3.5 miles of road to the finish line. And so I set the pace for that next 3.5 miles and he fell in behind me. And then when we hit the road, he's a better road runner than me. And so he set the pace for the last little bit. And so here's the finish line. So when I first started running, I couldn't even run for 5 minutes straight, right? And after running for 99 hours, 42 minutes, 43 seconds, I crossed the finish line of what was the greatest personal accomplishment of my life. So a week ago, I had to send my slides in quite a while ago. And up until about 8 days ago, this is where I would start to wrap up. But I added a couple of things. I want to really quick, I know I'm about 34 seconds over time, but enjoy your success. At every step of the way, you're going to achieve, you're going to inspire, you're going to help other people accomplish. Enjoy your success, because that's really all we have is the experiences that we create. Help others succeed. There are people in your business, there are people in your community, there are tenants, there are landlords that rely on you for their enjoyment, happiness, safety, security. Help others succeed. And then keep reaching for new goals and expanding your belief in what's possible. So what's next? That was last summer. That was in 2020. So I want to show you, this is the guy who won the race. I finished in 99 hours. This guy finished, who's with me, he finished in 55 hours. He had 2 full days. He went home, he went back to his hotel room, took a shower, ate a bunch of meals, like slept a bunch, came back out, and then was there at the finish line with us. His name's Mike McKnight. And I'm like, I need to know that guy. So I found somebody in that community that was doing what I wanted to do at a high level, and I hired him as my coach. And so this is really, really brief, but I went back this year. I just finished 8 days ago, finished the Moab 240 in 2022. Last year, I finished like 92 out of 168 runners. This year, I think it says, what's it say? There was 167 finishers out of 250 starters. I finished in the top 10. And it's because, thank you. Okay. But honestly, I attribute much of my success. Obviously, I played a part, but much of my success I contribute to my coach, Mike. I found somebody that was doing what I wanted to do, that was doing it better, that had the systems, had the tools, these vendors. I found somebody that could help me achieve at the level that I wanted to achieve. So here's what's next, right? I got to keep expanding, I promise I'm wrapping up. But in 2023, I registered for what's called the Triple Crown of 200s. It's 658 miles of racing over 3 races over 4.5 months. I may make it, I may not, right? You got to expand your goals. You got to be constantly pushing if it's something that you're passionate about. So I'm going to go out there and I'm going to try to accomplish this race. Not only because I finished 9th out of the 250 starters, I now have this whole new mindset open up where I'm not just showing up to run it. I'm going there to compete. I'm going there to win the Triple Crown. And what they do is they combine the times of all 3 races. And then if you have the fastest combined time, you win the Triple Crown. So I want to leave this with you guys. This is what I want to leave with you. I got a couple of questions for you. What's your impossible? I know you're not into running. I know this isn't everybody's thing, right? But hopefully it was relatable where you could see, I started laying in a closet, not being able to move, not knowing if I was going to walk out of there. And I was able to constantly make small incremental improvements over the time. So what's your impossible? What's the thing that you want to accomplish? And then what's your greatest fear? I'm going to leave you with my two greatest fears. The first one is that I will die with unrealized potential. How sad will that be? To know or to find out that I could have been better and I settled for less. So the first one is that I will die with unrealized potential. The second fear that I have, and of course this is after, making sure my family's taken care of and all of that, but my second personal fear that I have is not only will I die with unrealized potential, but I will wake up one day and realize that my best day is behind me. And that's going to happen to me. It's going to happen to every one of us. At some point, we're going to wake up and our best day will be behind us. And I want to put that off as long as possible, and I hope you do too. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tony. Well, how about one more round? All right.
I hope you enjoyed listening to that presentation, and I hope it encouraged you and inspired you to pursue the things that really matter to you. One of the reasons why I started this podcast and one of the reasons why I do the coaching and consulting that I do is because I know that we all dream way too small, and there are things inside of us that we need to get out into the world. And I'd love to be a part of your story in some small way, even if it's just you telling me what you're up to so that I can encourage you. I'd love to follow your progress as you continue to make the life that you desire. So that's it from me, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks for tuning in to the Property Management Success Podcast. We'll be back with another value-packed episode to help you level up your property management game. If you've got something valuable out of today's episode, please share it with a friend or colleague, and don't forget to subscribe and leave a review so you never miss out on future insights and strategies and tactics. Until next time, here's to your success.